Instagram, I posted a poll asking if anyone would be interested in seeing or watching a video or a multitude of videos kind of depicting the last 2 years of my life. It's been very difficult to kind of open up about what's been going on the past 2 years because I'm a very organized, like, plan-based person, and all throughout high school I had like a certain plan of like how I wanted things to work out, and none of it has happened so far, and it's been very hard to deal with it in that regard. But also, like, I've never really had a lot of health issues before. Like, I get sick and I've had strep throat a lot and I've had a couple concussions and, you know, like just normal like kid stuff. Like, I never really had anything that was like, whoa, you know what I mean? So I guess this really all started back early, I want to say February 2016. That's when the fainting started. I was constantly passing out, like, all the time. And it was only for like a short period of time, so like 30 seconds to like maybe 2 minutes of just, I'm gone, out, done. And I'd wake up and I'd be completely disoriented, as anyone would if they passed out, and then they woke up and they're like, what the hell? Yeah, it was kind of scary, but I mean, it is what it is. I started to get really concerned when I was passing out, and it was for a long period of time. There was one time when I was working at Harvey's, I want to say April 2016. I was working with my cousin. All I remember is such a weird memory, but I remember I was making a poutine for someone, and I had the woman's poutine in my hand, and I was getting the gravy, and I was putting the gravy onto the poutine, and I was putting a lid on top of it, and all of a sudden I just felt this feeling that I've never felt before. It was like someone had like hit the top of my head, and as they like tapped it, like I just went light as a feather all the way down my body, and I got really cold, and like if someone like poked me I would have fell over. Like, that's kind of how weak that I felt. So I turned around, and I guess the woman could kind of see how scared I was, and I was kind of swaying a little bit, and I don't really remember much after that, but apparently I fainted. My manager caught me. If my manager wasn't there, it probably would have been a lot worse than it actually was. But the first time that this happened, I was completely unconscious until I got to the hospital. I had no idea what the f was going on. I woke up and I was very confused because one minute at Harvey's doing my job, and the next minute I'm in a hospital. So that's kind of when it started to get a little bit scary, and I was like, okay, if this happens again, I'm gonna go to the doctor. Like, this shouldn't be a thing. So just my luck, it happened again a couple weeks later at Harvey's again, and this time it wasn't as bad. I kind of came to while I was still at Harvey's. I ended up going home with my boyfriend. That was when I was like, okay, like I need to figure this shit out. Like, this is not normal. So I went to my doctor. She diagnosed me with something called vasovagal syncope, which pretty much just means that I already have really, really, really low blood pressure, and I guess at any given moment, at any given time, if I get up too quickly, if I don't eat enough, honestly, if I do anything realistically, my body can decide, nope, we're gonna spike your blood pressure and you're gonna faint. And this is kind of what led into my seizure. I got that diagnosis, and I was like, okay, manageable. If I do the right things, or if I'm just careful, like this, it's fine. People live with this, whatever. It's not a big thing. So that fall, I finally got to go to school because I'd taken a year off previously to work, and I went to McMaster for my first university. I went for a social science program. I want to do law, so I thought it would be a good kind of pre-law undergraduate to go to law school with. Come October, that's when things started to get really rough. I had heard of panic attacks before, but I had never actually experienced one until about, like, I want to say it was like October 5th. Like, it was really, really early into the month. I remember I had a class and I lived off campus, but it was only like a 10-minute walk, and it was like right down the street. So, and I had taken this walk so many times before. So I put my backpack on, I was getting my shoes on, I was fine until I opened the door to leave. It was like every sense and nerve in my body was just like, it froze, and I couldn't move, I couldn't talk. I was just like a deer in the headlights for I don't know how long. And I kind of realized like what was happening. So I was like, okay, I can't just stand in the middle of my doorway in downtown Hamilton. I need to get back inside. So I didn't even kick off my shoes. I didn't even do anything. I just took my whole body and I just went upstairs. My room was directly to the left, right from the stairs. I opened my door, just kind of dropped everything that I had. I just like flopped right into bed, and it was one of the scariest things because I was 2 hours away from home. It had never happened before, and I'm in Hamilton. Like, Hamilton is one of the scariest places I've ever been in, and I just didn't know what to do. That was kind of when everything started, I want to say, because the panic attacks got so bad that I actually had to leave MAC by the end of October. It's really hard to talk about because I always thought that, like, I've always been a very school-oriented person, and I've always loved school, and I'm not saying that I don't love school anymore. I'm just saying that at that time, I just couldn't do it. I wasn't myself. I was very, like what I was saying, I was having really bad panic attacks and I just needed to get out. Yeah, so I packed up all my stuff and I went home. So I got a job at the Tim Hortons where I live. Everything was fine. I was planning to go back to school in January. I just wanted to like calm down because I didn't know what was going on. One day while I was at work, I think it was meant to be a 6 to 2. So I'd already been there for, I want to say, 2 hours. I had already worked at a Tim Hortons for about 3 years, and when I started at this other Tim Hortons, it was owned by the same person, but they insisted that I was retrained. Even though when I was at MAC, I was working at the Tim Hortons by the university, and they never retrained me. Anyway, I remember that I was working storefront. I just helped a customer, and I was rotating pots, and I remember having it in my hand, and then everything, it was almost like the same feeling when I was at Harvey's. It was just very, I knew something was wrong. What ended up happening was, apparently I put the coffee down. I don't remember. But apparently I looked at the girl that was training me. She just knew instantly the way that I looked at her that something was wrong. As I was falling, she kind of like came out underneath me. Apparently I was on the floor for a while. It wasn't just a pass out. I was seizing. A friend that I used to go to high school with was working there that day, and she actually ended up coming to the hospital with me. I didn't even know. Apparently I was seizing for a long time. When the paramedics got there, I was still seized. They put me into the ambulance. They rushed me to the hospital with this friend that I went to school with. Actually, I'm just going to say her name. Her name is Rain. I don't think I ever got to say thank you for what you did because I was unconscious the entire time that you were at the hospital. So I just wanted to say thank you. It was probably one of the scariest days of my life, especially waking up and finding out that I had a seizure. I had no idea that you were there, and my mom told me that you were, and I just burst out crying. I'm very thankful for it, so thank you. But anyways, I was in the hospital and completely unconscious. Apparently my mom was there for like an hour beforehand. Don't remember. I was just done. When I woke up, I was very disoriented. My whole body just ached in a way that I'd never felt before. And I played sports when I was younger, so I know what aches and pains feel like, and this was This was nothing like I'd ever felt before. Like, it just, my body just wasn't working. And I remember opening my eyes a little bit and then turning to my right, and my mom was on this side. And I remember looking at her and she just looked devastated. But she was also happy that I got up, but like you can kind of see it in her eye. It's really hard because after that, the doctor didn't really tell me much. It was just one seizure, and they weren't even really calling it a seizure because apparently nobody really saw it, like a medical professional. The paramedics said that it was, but I have a couple other stories about nurses and doctors kind of being rude to some of the paramedics that had taken me in to the hospital multiple times. But they didn't tell me anything. They sent me home. Everything was fine until January, after my 20th birthday. Everything was fine, it was great, and all of a sudden I had another seizure. And this is the only time that I've had a seizure where I've been able to talk during it. I don't remember the seizure at all. Apparently what happened was we were at my boyfriend's house. I think I was trying to get up the stairs to go into his room to lie down on his bed because I knew that there was something wrong, and I didn't quite make it, so I laid down on the floor, and he was with one of the things that my doctor said to do when I was diagnosed with vasovagal syncope was for someone to lift my legs up high. So it kind of gets like the blood circulating a little bit. So apparently that's what he was doing as I was shaking. His sister and his sister's fiance and his mom all rushed upstairs just to make sure that I was okay. Someone called my parents, and they decided to take me to the hospital again. This is where it kind of started to get a little bit more serious. My parents took me to the hospital. Doctors didn't really say anything again, so this is when my mom decided to go to my family doctor and request a referral to a neurologist. So I started to see a neurologist, and she started to put me on meds in April of 2017. This is where things kind of got, like, bad. So from April of 2017 to August of 2017, I was on 6 different anticonvulsant medications. Each and every one of them had a different side effect, and each and every one of them almost landed me in the hospital. There was one medication that I took that had a rare side effect of skin peeling off. This medication that I was taking, I had a fever for like 5 days. Like I was so warm and I was puking. I was really sick. I was sick to the point where my boyfriend like touched my skin and he immediately had to take his hand away because I was that warm. So he decided to run me a freezing cold bath, and I was kicking and screaming while he was trying to put me in this bath. And I'm glad he did it because it brought down my fever a little bit. And then the next day, I told my mom what was going on, and she kind of got mad at me because I wasn't really thinking that the fever could have been a side effect of the medication that I was on. She ended up calling my neurologist, and my neurologist said she needs to get to the hospital right away. She needs to get all of the medication that is currently circulating through her system out of her body, because what it is doing right now, it was making my blood boil under the surface of my skin, and if I had waited maybe 1 or 2 more days, my skin would have peeled off. I got to the hospital, they flushed me out with a new anticonvulsant medication. They put me on another medication to help with the pain relief because I was in so much pain. Yeah, so that was one of the stories of one of the incidences where I ended up being really allergic to one of the medications that I was on. I don't think that's necessarily a new thing. A lot of people have a lot of different reactions to medication. I guess I was just scared because of the intensity of the side effect that I had to deal with.